So at first I thought that the 12K is an extreme marketing strategy to separate Blackmagic from the rest of the cinema camera companies. But I later on realized that there are actually huge benefit from using 12K. And actually the 12K is beneficial to three types or three groups of people so far. I'm sure that there will be more, but these are the ones that I found out so far. So the first one is wildlife cinematographers. I'm sure you've seen footage from National Geographic or Discovery channels. And I've seen the behind the scenes of all of these footage, like how they shot it, and it's extremely impressive how they even managed to get those shots. So some of the times they want to get like a wide shot of the environment where, let's say, a cheetah is living and suddenly something happened and they have to just punch in or zoom in and follow what's happening with the cheetah. But imagine if they can just shoot a wide establishing shot of the environment, and if something happened they just need to punch in and just follow the cheetah in post-production. 12K is really wide, so they can go from extreme wide shot to extreme close-up almost. Probably not extreme close-up, but close-up, and they wouldn't be losing any moment and they're not wasting any time. I'm not really sure if wildlife photographers will accept this idea. So if someone is a wildlife photographer, please tell me if you would do such thing. So the second group of people is broadcast TV or live TV cameraman. It's kind of like the same idea of the wildlife photographer, but it's like when you're shooting, let's say, a football match or a talk show, even a live performance, singing or dancing, you often need to switch the cameras. So when I was still a student, I worked in a live performance crew before, and usually they have 5 cameramans and the director will just switch the cameras whenever he finds something interesting from a certain angle. If you're using a 12K camera, you probably can go from establishing shot to close up. And basically the same idea as the wildlife photographer is that you can just reframe everything really quickly in high quality. The only issue is that sometimes they still need something from different angles. So that's the time when it probably doesn't work. But still, I think that this whole concept of reframing and recomposite your image is probably going to be beneficial to a lot of cameramans. So the last one is kind of different from the first two ones, which are visual effects artists. Oftentimes they need a very clear image, a sharp image from some footage to be able to key it or composite or do these stabilization in post-production. So I'd say that the 12K is going to be beneficial for the post-production, especially VFX artists. So in my last video, I did mention that 8K is some sort of a marketing strategy, but maybe at one point it's going to be really, really helpful to improve the whole industry. Who knows? Although I did ask a lot of my filmmaking friends what do they think about 12K, and most of them don't think that it is necessary to have a 12K. So at one point, I feel like when the resolution past 8K, it's not that people want to enjoy high resolution and enjoy the visual, but more what they can do with it in post-production or doing production. It's more like the use of it instead of just enjoying the visuals. So I've been talking about the 12K resolution, and I haven't mentioned about the camera yet. It's called the Ursa Mini Pro 12K by Blackmagic. So there are a few huge advantages that this 12K camera has over other cinema cameras. The first thing, and probably is like the craziest thing, is the price. Blackmagic I always felt that Blackmagic is like the Apple in the camera industry, but somehow I don't know how I felt that. Maybe it's because they work with Apple a lot, but their price is crazy, man. It's so cheap. I mean, relative to other cinema camera, not that it's actually cheap, but yeah. So it's $9,995. So I'm going to talk about their competitors a bit later, but let's talk about the other advantage that they have as well. The second one is the reason why I even started using Blackmagic. So I've been using Blackmagic, the BMPCC 6K, which is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. 6K for about a year now, I guess, and I used it a lot. I use it for a lot of my commercial works. And the Blackmagic RAW codec is, I'm not even exaggerating. I think any of you who has the chance to try it, you should try it, because I remember the time when I was editing raw like footage with the DNG sequence, and it's such a pain in the, and to be able to color grade a raw file and edit it at the same time is unbelievable. And the thing is, Blackmagic on their website they mentioned that you can edit these footage on your laptop, and I think they even did that on their live stream. I haven't watched it, but I actually edited raw footage, the Blackmagic raw footage, on my MacBook Pro 13-inch 2015, and it's a pretty bad laptop. It does lag a little bit sometimes, but it is because this laptop is pretty old. I'm sure if you have a better laptop, it's probably going to work pretty well. The thing with Blackmagic raw codec is that it is even smaller than ProRes. So when I'm using an SSD to shoot, I get more time. Like I can shoot longer footage with Blackmagic RAW compared to the ProRes. Most of the time I don't even shoot in ProRes because I get less time. That's really impressive. I said it already, but I'm gonna say it again. If you have the chance to try Blackmagic RAW, just try it, man. You're gonna be impressed by it. And the second thing is kind of still related to the Blackmagic RAW, is that the color is really good. I shot on Sony. I did compliment Sony a lot, but I think when it comes to skin tone, the Blackmagic color science is, I would say, is one of the best. I wouldn't say it's the best. It's a bit controversial. There's red as well, but I guess at the end of the day, color science is all subjective, but I'm pretty sure that 99% of people will be happy with the Blackmagic color science. So the last advantage I think that they have is high frame rates. And there are competitors when it comes to high frame rate, but with the combination of the other three advantages that I just mentioned, which are the price, Blackmagic RAW, the color, I think that high frame rate is the least important one, but it's still very impressive. And I'm sure that a lot of people who wants to shoot slow motion with good color, that's the one you're gonna go for. So price, Blackmagic RAW, color, and high frame rates. These are the ones that I think they have advantages over other cinema cameras. Not DSLR, but cinema cameras. So I'm gonna go through the potential competitors that Blackmagic has when it comes to this camera. When you look at the price, it just there's no competition when it comes to the price, except one company that I'm gonna talk about. So let's go. If you try to compare to ones that has closer specs, obviously none of these cinema camera has 12K, but we're gonna look at it nonetheless. So there's the Canon C500, $16,000. So the C500 can only shoot up to 120 FPS in 2K. Canon does have their own RAW file that can be played directly on Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve, as far as I know. It's called the CRM codec. And I think these things are, again, subjective. So if you like CRM codec and the colors, then just go for Canon. I prefer the Blackmagic color a bit more. So the C500 is a full frame camera, first of all, and the Mini Ursa Pro 12K is a Super 35. And if you want to compare the sensor size, the C300 has a Super 35 sensor, and it costs $10,999, which is $11,000. Still more expensive than the Blackmagic 12K. So you see what they're doing with the 12K. C500 is 5K, 6K, and Blackmagic is 12K. If you just want to compare the resolution, obviously Blackmagic is like way ahead. But obviously there's a lot more stuff to compare with besides the resolution. But if you just, put the name 12K next to 5K, 6K, obviously the 12K looks more appealing than, the rest of it. So certainly there's elements of marketing inside, but Blackmagic is definitely not just a bad camera with high resolution. It has its own quality that you should try out. So the other competition it has is the Red Dragon X 6K, and it's also a Super 35 sensor, but this one cost $14,950. So again, the price is, you lose with the price. So if you just look at the price, obviously there's no competition, but I did mention that there's one exception, actually two. So the first one is Zcam. The Zcam, as far as I know, is a Chinese company, and they make really cheap cinema camera. So they have a full frame 8K camera that can shoot up to 72 frames per second in 4K. The price is $6,000. But the thing is, most of the time when I'm shooting commercials, I just rent a camera. You know, if I really need a better camera. You know, I rented the Zcam before and I tested out. So most of the time we rented. We did buy a camera, a cinema camera for our company. And that's the second exception competitors that Blackmagic has, which is themselves. If you kind of not really need 12K and the high frame rates, then you would go for the BMPCC 6K. Like, we bought it right after it's out and we shot multiple commercials with it. I rented way less camera ever since we bought the BMPCC 6K. The BMPCC 6K will be one of the competition they're gonna have when the 12K camera comes out, because if you don't use the 12K, then just go for the 6K. But anyways, the BMPCC 6K cost only $2,000. $2,000, that's crazy cheap. Man, Blackmagic is like, they make cheap cameras. What the hell, man? It's so, yeah, like, I don't want to go too deep into other cameras, but I'm just saying, you know, there's a lot of competition going on. But I'm pretty sure that if Red or Canon ever made a cinema camera that has similar specs to the Ursa Mini Pro 12K, it is probably not going to be this price. The specs are really impressive itself already, regardless of the price. But then, you know, they hit you with the price. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of people is just gonna buy it, not just for the 12K, but the fact that it's a cinema camera and all the specs that it comes with. Sometimes new technology just comes out without people even knowing what's the use of it. You know, it's like when Samsung came out with this folding phone. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw it, and people don't know what you're gonna do with the folding screen. You know, it's so cool, but what am I gonna do with it? And the 12K is kind of like this, like, oh my gosh, like, it's so good, but what am I gonna do with it? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really have fun talking about this stuff, so I'll see you guys next time. Bye.